Welcome back, everybody, to the League of Inches podcast. The quick dumps for round 12, attacking it basically. Everyone, we've grown each and every week. We're now up to 4 people who want to be involved with this quick dump show. When Sid came to me with the idea, it was just me and him, and I was thinking to myself, I don't know how this will go, but we did the episode, and I remember Jane, we had a chat off air and said, oh, I like this. This is good, and you've all been watching. You've all let me know that it's been a great show. You've really enjoyed the fact that it's just straight into it. We've got 60 seconds to get our answer across, and let's move on. So it's a really cool way to talk about everything that's happened for the week that's been in league, and you guys are obviously loving it as well. So really appreciate it, and got Goosey and Tyler along for the ride this week as well. Tyler's jumped on board, and he hasn't missed a show yet. He's loving it, so really keen to go again. So what I'm going to do this week, we're not going to go around in a circle with the questions. I'll read out every single question, but we'll take turns in who starts, and we'll just go basic clockwise. So dump one, Sid will start, and fancy that, it's actually about his club. So let's take it away. So Tyler, when we do it, you probably see the counter at the top. So just go a minute from that. So Sid, the Dragons had another second half collapse. Will Fleno finally make significant changes in the coming weeks?
Look, I'm living in hope, and I think it's time. It's not like we're going to make the 8, let alone win a comp. There's some real talent in reserve grade. I think he's going to do it finally, based on the cryptic post-game um, interview or press conference. He was saying, quote, something along the lines of, I'll paraphrase, that some guys out there that don't look like they want to play first grade. And he's never said anything like that before. So I'm going to say he's just going to change. Hopefully, he's going to make some changes.
Sounds like he's talking about Parramatta as well. But that's another talking point. We'll look at that later. Tyler, the Dragons had another second half collapse. Will Fleno finally make significant changes in the coming weeks?
Flano needs to make changes. That team is too talented to be where they're sitting currently, and to collapse under themselves the way they do. They do have very, very, good young players coming through as well through the New South Wales Cup. I feel like they need to get them in there as soon as possible. I wouldn't be hesitating any longer.
Mate, you did that well inside this 60 seconds. You're a natural when it comes to this. Goosey?
Yeah, like it's not working at the moment, so you might as well blood some of the young guns in. I've watched a couple of games when they were versing the Warriors New South Wales Cup, and there's some sharp players in that Dragons team. So, like you gotta start blooding them in at some point. If their season's not working as how it's going, you may as well get them in and give them a run.
I'll basically echo everyone's thoughts at the moment. When you're in these sorts of situations, and the frustrating thing, and I'm not a Dragons fan, but they've had some games this year where they do look like a top 8 team. And that's the frustrating thing to this, is that they do have a team that's capable of something. But the flip side of it, when you look at their team on paper, there's also a number of players there where you just think, like someone like Eisenhuth, for instance, he just looks like he has been, like the last week or two, basically shown to be a bit behind maybe at times in a way. And for me, I look at it and I think maybe that's a youngster that can come in who's hungry, wants to show that he deserves to be at this top grade, and he wouldn't make maybe a lot of those missed tackles or errors that someone like Tom Eisenhuth has made last. And I'm not on bagging him out. He has been good for the Dragons early, has been a Mr. Consistency. He's probably played out of position a number of weeks for the Dragons because that's what was needed. There's definitely some things that need to happen to this roster. Dump number 2. Historically, this time of year, it's heavy underfoot. What are your reasons for the high scores? Tyler, you're first for this one.
The reason for the high scores, I feel as though more comes from people wanting to perform, getting ready for Origin, kind of putting the foot down and justifying why they are being selected for those rep teams, and also possibly, teams being, we're now about, I'd say 13. We're now into round 13, so we also could possibly be dealing with a few of the clubs who had a bye at the start of the year, waiting for the next bye and having a bit of fatigue in there. in their squad as well.
Yep. Goosey,
I
what's your
think,
thoughts here?
yeah, I 100% agree with Tyler. I think the fatigue is taking a big part on some of the teams. But I also just think like the amount of injuries that are just happening to some teams and just how like unlucky some players are. I think it's just like tearing some teams apart and they're just like falling behind. And I think from like the top 4 down, it's just like there's just a big difference between the top 4 teams and then just the rest of the league. So yeah, I think it's just a little bit of everything, to be honest.
I'm gonna bring up a point that I don't really think I've heard mentioned yet regarding on this. You know what I actually want to start seeing? I want to see a bit of old school here. I want to actually start seeing the training load taken back a little bit because I just feel like at the moment, at this day and age, with all the scientifics behind things and that, we are smashing these players day in, day out, whether it's a wrestling session, weights, back to back sessions. And I know they're on good money, but they're also professional athletes and they've got to look after their body, guys. Like, I'm all for making sure they're fit, etc., and running them and stuff. But you also got to look at a human aspect point of view. I used to do athletics and stuff, and I understand it firsthand that there is just days where an injury will come and you just don't feel it. You know your body's not feeling it, but the coach is there and you're there, and it's been written down in your timetable that this is what you're doing today. You feel obligated to do it. Where as I went on in the back end of my sort of career with it, I realized it, and so did my coach. And we just sort of took that day off. We'd go, you know what, it's not worth it. Have that day off, and I'd come back the next day, and I'd feel like it was a much better session because your body needs that bit of a break. And I just feel like even though there's a lot behind the scenes, there's a lot of strength and conditioning and stuff, I just think we need to get to that point of view with things. But that's my 2 cents. Sid, what's yours?
I think the speed of the game going backwards, and when certain good teams get momentum, the opposition just keep going backwards, and it's just too much for them. We'll add that what Goosey was talking about with the injuries as well. So edges is where all the points come from, in my opinion, over the last, say, in the NRL era. Attacking that gap between the spot player being the 5'8" or halfback, and then the centre, and then if you get a back that has an injury, it's you end up throwing a second row out there. It throws out your forward rotation. The forwards get tired, and I did also notice because of that. Most recently, there's so many front rower tries just crashing over because teams are just so fatigued. 6 again on their line, 6 again on their line. So I think it's the backwards fatigue factor and the injuries as well.
Yep, 100%. Dump 3, guys. The Cronulla Sharks put 38 on the Roosters, then 0 against Penrith. Was it physical, fatigue, mental, or the loss of Hines? Goosey.
Honestly, like I think it's a little bit of everything. Like putting on 38 against a Roosters team, obviously, like it's amazing, but like physically, mentally, like you're just gonna be drained. Like you're gonna be all up in like emotions. You're gonna be like so excited, but then they probably like as Joe was saying before about the load of training, they probably the next day went and had a gym session or something like that. Like they need to, and then obviously the loss of Hines, like the loss of their halfbacks, like the halfback, sorry, is just like a massive loss to their team, to any team. It's a massive loss losing your halfback. So I think a little bit of everything is just shook them apart.
A bit controversial here. I'm not going to go as far as calling them pretenders. I want to say this. I think they started horribly on the weekend. That was with Hines as well playing. So I'm not going to use the Hines excuse for him because even with Hines there at the start, they were just so far off the pace. It wasn't funny. Penrith were just, you could see very, very early they had that look in their eye going, we're making a statement this game. Everyone's talking about you guys being the new competition favourites. Go sit down, young kid. Watch the big boys play type thing. I want to talk about quickly the fact that defensively, I think the Sharks are still a little bit off because they conceded obviously the 40-odd points against Penrith. Then the week before that against the Roosters, yes, they scored 38, but they also conceded 30 points. So if you want to win a comp, you can't be letting in that many points back to back. We don't see that from Penrith. We don't see that from Melbourne. We don't see that from those sorts of teams that are going for the premierships. the Sharkies, there's been a lot of pressure on them about being up there with those big teams, and Penrith are their kryptonite. They just can't beat Penrith. They've done this to them so many times over the last couple of years. Maybe it's in their head. Maybe there's that bit of mental side of things, and that's the big thing for me. I think the Sharks need to overcome is that mental side of it with Penrith and those real big teams, and just having that real hard-nosed defensive style. Sid?
I'm going to say I think the excitement of winning that game against Roosters, they got a little excited. They were also in Queensland, with the whole Magic round um, and to travel back and all that sort of thing. I think it was a combined mental lapse thing, and then they maybe didn't realise how taxing that game was with the travel, coupled with the travel and the festivities of the Magic round, if you like, and then Penrith did what they do, which is if they get 10, 12 points ahead, it's as good as a 20 or 30-point lead because they're just so good at the grind and obviously compounding the issues with the Hines and all of a sudden catch-up football and the errors just piled up. It was ugly. But I do agree with what you're saying, Joel. I think the start was alarming, especially at home. Usually it's a fortress, that Shark Park.
Yeah, because they hadn't played there for a few weeks as well. That was a very eye-opening start to that game. Tyler?
I don't want to give them the opportunity to blame this on physical fatigue or the loss of Nico Hines. I think that, yes, while Nico is a instrumental part of that team, they should not be conceding 42 points. They went into that game with the mentality of, you have people like May out, obviously for a unknown amount of time now with that case, and also Nathan Cleary with the injury. They went in there thinking that this is going to be another walk in the park and that they're going to put another 40 on a team. And if they truly think that they are going to win this league by performing like that, they are sorely mistaken.
Look out. Tyler goes bang again. Like he's done this 2 nights in a row. He's going bang. He's not taking shit from no one. So don't worry, guys. Tyler on board now, a League of Inches. And don't get me in a mood. I was like, whoa, we're ready to blow up. Dump number 4. Just before Origin time, who is your dark horse / underrated NRL side so far? I think it's I'm up. Look out. My dark horse. Underrated team. I tell you what, the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are doing quite well. I know they lost on the weekend, and yeah, well done to the Warriors. But before that, like the fact that they've been able to go up again and be around there has surprised me. I guess an underrated one. I think this could be two-pronged because for me, I have a different answer for that if I say underrated because I think it's the Canberra Raiders. I think everyone had them for almost wooden spoons, and they've just been very, very tough this year. So my dark horses are the Dolphins. I think they can do something and trouble some of those teams when they're all on. An underrated team would be the Raiders. Sid?
Yeah, I like what you're saying, but for me, any team with Wayne Bennett in the coaching box, especially in his second year, they're always going to be good. So it doesn't surprise me that they've gone and moved up the ladder and they're very competitive. And he's turned, always turns in nobodies into contenders. My team would be, honestly, I said it last year, I was probably a year too early. The Knights sitting pretty in 6th position. And I haven't heard anything about them other than your mates on the League of Inches talking about the Knights and that bloke's dad that sits on the hill every week. Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
He's still there.
And, but they're not getting a lot of press, especially with Ponga out. That's my dark horse, and it's also my surprise packet, given that coach was under so much pressure not too long ago.
Tyler?
I've got 2 teams for this. Obviously, Dolphins are performing very well, but we've seen unfortunately, what happens with a lot of newer teams. They can tend to just roll over in the second half of the season once fatigue starts to creep into the game. And also, the way that the Titans have been playing the last few weeks has been immaculate. I think they were unlucky not to win last week. With the controversial no try, still baffled about that. I went and rewatched that again last night because I saw it on Facebook, and I was left shaking my head. But the referees are a whole nother ball game. But obviously, any team that Wayne Bennett touches turn to gold, and I feel like the same is going to be for Andrew Webster over the next few years if he can continue the way that they play with passion. He's definitely one to look out for.
Wise up, baby, and here we go, Goosey. What's yours?
My dark horse, like I gotta be backing my boys. You know, they're sitting pretty in 13th at the moment. Like as a dark horse in that fact, I think they're a team that in the next couple of weeks, you know, they're gonna come through. So, you can't be calling you can't not be calling them a dark horse when they're sitting in 13th. So
they were predicted to finish in top 4. That could be a top 4 team. They're sitting in 13th.
Mate, we're only
That's not
halfway
a
through the
dark horse.
season. We're going undefeated. We're going undefeated.
Is that a one-eyed fan if I've ever seen one?
Nah, just kidding. My pick's the Raiders, as you were saying before. Even after losing Fogarty, like everyone, as soon as they lost Fogarty, it was like Raiders are down the drain. They've turned on another gear, and they're just like Ricky Stewart once again is just making players, and they're just playing for the club, and it's good to see.
Talking about the Raiders, that brings us to dump number 5. Another contenders or pretenders. Everyone's loving this so far. So the Canberra Raiders, are they contenders or pretenders? I think Sid. We're up to Sid.
Yeah, and I believe they're in 8th place. Is that right?
8th, currently 8th position.
Okay, all right. So I really liked their draw. You know, with all due respect, you never know with a new season. But I thought at the start of the year, them and the Sharks, we've discussed this before, them and the Sharks had a nice soft draw. Obviously, the Fogarty thing was a spanner in the works. The thing with the Raiders, they turn every game into a dogfight. They might play the team coming last and have a dogfight, but they'll play the team coming first and they'll push them to the 79th minute, you know. Are they contenders or pretenders? I'm going to stick with my original thoughts from the start of the year. I want to say they're contenders. I'm going to say they're going to make the 8, and watch out, whoever plays them. They just got a mad squad, man.
Look out, Tyler. Contenders or pretenders for the Raiders? I reckon you're going to go bang in a minute.
I think they are sheep in wolves' clothing. They're absolute pretenders. Jordan Rapana is one of the biggest flogs I've ever seen onto a football field. I can't stand the bloke, as well as Sebastian Chris. I've never seen two people whinge more in my life. I think that they are absolutely
Ruben Garrick
getting. Manly's a whole nother beast. I don't consider them a football team. I consider them a bunch of ballerinas, but that's different. I think that Raiders have gotten away with a few lucky wins, and last week just showed when they come up against dangerous players such as Dominic Young and Daniel Tupou, they will get outclassed every time, and Rapana will be put on his ass every time. And I love to see it.
Tyler. He's feeling.
I guess that's pretenders then.
That's
Absolutely.
pretenders. Goosey.
Oh.
Contenders or pretenders for the Raiders?
Oh, I just had a look at the draw for the Raiders for the rest of the season, and they got, I think, 1 or 2 buys left, and they don't have the Eels, so there's not a free win there. So, I think, and then they verse the Warriors in round 20, so that's a loss for them. So they don't get any free points from the Eels. So I think, with all due respect, I think they're going to be contenders. Pretenders, sorry. I think they're just going to be outside the top 8. But for what they've done so far this season, they're doing better than the Eels, so you can't shake them.
Well, I find it pretty hard to. I'm just going to ignore the little pot shots. He's on his last warning. He knows that, and the way he's going, he's doing my fucking head in. It's a hard one to answer because I don't want to be disrespectful to what they've done so far because they have done very well this year and they have achieved something, in my opinion. But clear contender in this competition, I think that means you're going to be in the chance to win the competition. Now, I just don't think as good as they have been going and being brave, I don't think they're at that caliber yet. So I'm going to have to put them in the pretenders pile purely off the fact that I don't think they can win the competition this year if we're getting down to a fight and a battle for those top sort of teams. So I'll have them as pretenders. It would not surprise me if what Sid's saying is correct if they do make the edge of the 8 and become a pain in the ass, but I don't think they'll be able to beat someone like the Panthers or the Storm or the Roosters in that semi-final sort of football environment. Last tackle, we're doing the kick. We're doing the big Burton bomb. With Origin sides in mind, give us your surprise selection. Is this... Hang on, Sid. Sid writes these ones up, guys. Both Origin teams have been named now. So can we shake this up? Because we already know we can't really say selection shake-ups or droppings because we now know everything. Do you want to I'm going to let you go live on air. Do you want to reword this question? Do you want have a backup plan?
No. What I'm saying is, what's your surprise out of the selection? Like when you went, oh wow, they picked that bloke, and what's your surprise dropping? Oh, wow, they dropped that bloke. I mean, the obvious one is Teddy for most people, but I thought I'll get everyone's opinion.
Okay, all right. I think they could both be the same answer because obviously surprise selection or surprise dropping, like we're working together.
Maybe.
Who's Tyler? Yeah. Tyler's first. So you surprise selection and surprise dropping for the Origin Series Game 1.
Both come out of the Maroons camp. I don't know whether Billy's been around too many new homes and going in the back room and huffing a little bit of paint. But he seems to be just going with a complete new look. Surprise selection was Jermaine Hopgood. I love the bloke, but how you can choose an out of form, especially from the Parramatta Eels, is absolutely beyond me. I don't even think if the Blues were to pick Moses, I would have been happy over Cleary if both of them were obviously, fit. The surprise dropping, which is where that comment comes from, is obviously David Fafita. Not to have him in that squad is beyond me, and I think he's absolutely made the wrong call there.
I don't know if we'll ever get Billy Slater on this show after that, but Billy, if you're listening, still want you on, mate. Goosey?
I'm taking the surprise selection like a different way. My surprise selection is from the Blues camp to change it up. How is Mitchell Barnett not in the starting lineup? It took me 22 minutes to get this out. My surprise selection is how is he not in the starting lineup? That is surprising for me. And then, as Tyler was saying, the surprising drop. Like I talked about it in the Origin thing for Queensland. How is Dave Fafita not in the squad? I could talk all day, but lucky it's 60 seconds.
Oh, goodness me. To be young again, you boys have brought some energy to this. I'm telling you right now, this is fantastic. Surprise selection for mine. I'm just surprised that they've actually gone for Dylan Edwards. I was just so used to how it has been with the Blues and the fact that they've just picked and sticked with players who didn't really deserve it at the time. No disrespect for Tedesco, but he was behind it last year. He probably easily could have been replaced by Edwards last year, but it just didn't happen. But credit to Madge for making that change. So that is my surprise selection that they've actually gone ahead and done that. Surprise dropping, mine has to be David Fafita as well. It's a pretty common one so far. I cannot believe for the life of me. Queensland always talk about players like Latrell and Turbo that if we don't choose them, they think we've got rocks in our heads because they're scared of them. That's us Blues fans when it comes to David Fafita. I would have been petrified him coming off the bench after some players are tired, etc. And the fact that they haven't done that, I am so shocked. I'll keep saying it. Queensland just don't get Origin. It's clear to me now. They don't get Origin. Sid?
Oh, my God. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing yourself.
That's hilarious. Love it. So my surprise dropping is to, obviously, Fafita. He's the raging bull. He's my main man. He's my man crush. He's the best. He's awesome. He's my favorite player. And obviously Teddy, because purely I thought Teddy would have to stab someone or shoot someone or before he gets dropped because I just love him. He ties his shoelace, Teddy. Like it's just everything he does is just to obey his knees. The bloke can't pass. He's always dropping in tackles, copping it in the head where it belongs. And, he was just one dimensional. It was all power, and he's losing his power. And Edwards was better, like he said last year. But my surprise selection is, I find it strange, Cam McGuinness. Okay, he tackles a lot. Okay, he was better at the Dragons, that's for sure. And he went to Sharks. He went down a couple of notches. He tackles a lot. And what else does he do? He tackles a lot. Effort is not a talent. I'm disappointed.
Respect.
Wow. Well, guys, that's quick dumps. That's the beauty of quick dumps. We all get our say and no responses back about it. So thank you once again for listening. This has been a fun one. This has been something else. This has woken me up tonight, and credit to the new kid on the block, Tyler. Goosy's stepped it up again, and I swear to God, I'm going to lose my shit if he mentions Mitchell Barnett one more time. So we're getting off before he can. Thanks for listening,
Mitchell
guys.
Barnett.
Hit that like, subscribe, and see you Wednesday night.